So here we are. We are at the center of the adventure van universe. I think I can safely say that, right?
Probably.
Maybe you can't, but I can.
Okay.
And we are super stoked because we are going to be creating a field guide from a previous trip that we did here with John from Agile Offroad, who is a legend around here and definitely knows a lot about this whole Southwest desert area all the way into Mexico. But we went on a trip to Death Valley and you showed us some of your favorite places. And that was a really cool trip.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was obvious that you'd spent a lot of time there. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe your prehistory with Death Valley?
Yeah, I've been going to Death Valley for probably 15 years prior.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe even more, ever since before my daughter was born. And I've taken her on trips down there. I remember when she actually drove one of my Jeeps before she was 10 on some of the trails out there. So yeah, we've been going there a long time, and I checked on some of the favorite spots. Obviously, the vans are different than a Jeep.
Yeah.
So we took some of the less impactful areas for the vehicles. A lot of the places where we went for that took the Sprinters.
Yeah, we did.
We did. We had a lot of. There were some really, really good spots up there.
Yeah, it was. I'd spent a lot of time in Death Valley too before then, but you definitely took me some places that opened my eyes to some new places, and places that I hadn't been on my radar, and that was really cool.
Yeah, and for me, when I talk about Death Valley, a lot of that is Panamint Valley. So Panamint Valley is the valley to the west.
Yeah.
You get that beautiful telescope peak there, and it's right there in the middle of the valley. And then you got Panamint to the west and Death Valley to the east of it. So we were mostly in that area, but then I know we ended up at the racetrack.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's a huge area, right? Death Valley.
Yeah.
You could spend a lifetime exploring Death Valley.
Yeah, and people make a big mistake. They try and explore the whole valley in 3 or 4 days. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I forget how many miles we did. It wasn't a whole. We covered some decent area.
Yeah.
But we went to Defense Mine, and we went to Mineta Cabin, and then we went up Hunter Mountain. We had good conditions on Hunter Mountain, which that can be one of those things where you get there in the winter and it's not passable. So you need to make sure you're traveling the right time of the year for the vehicle you've got.
Because it's high enough that you get some snow up there.
Yeah. Matter of fact, we were just there recently, and we did not do Hunter Mountain because they showed it being closed. And we did another route.
Okay. So. What about the silt pits down there on the back side of Hunter?
The silt pits can be, they were, that was interesting, but the Sprinters handled it.
They did. They went right
handled
through
it really, really good. It kind of was a cool feature.
Yeah, I think at one point I had silt going over my windshield. It was so deep.
Yeah. You carried a little bit more speed than you probably needed to.
Yeah, I kind of hammered it through there. I didn't want to get bogged down.
Yeah.
What makes some of these places maybe your favorite places? And
well, I mean, some of them are iconic. Trona Pinnacles, right? So we went to the Trona Pinnacles. I wanted you to see it. I think you may have been there before.
I hadn't. That was my first time.
So that's kind of a famous place. You get those unique features. And then you get to drive through the town of Trona.
Yeah.
Which is completely just, a unique town.
Yeah. That funky gas station.
Yeah, the funky gas station. And then we went to Ballarat. Ballarat, again, it's an iconic place. It's also a kicking point for a lot of different places, which we didn't do. There's a few other canyons there that are probably not best suited for the Sprinter.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to check those out, but some of them you can go up into. But then we did Mineta Mine. We ended up on that little slab area, which I call it the slab. That's by Mineta Mine. And then we went up to the Defense Mine.
Yeah, that little cracking noise.
Love that cracking noise.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this.
Defense cool.
Yeah, can't take the Sprinters up there.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't.
We had that Jeep to shuttle us up there.
Yeah, we had the Jeep shuttled up there. It wasn't that far of a drive, and then we went into the Defense Mine underneath. That's like that's great memories with my daughter. She was growing up, and she got into exploring mines when she was probably 8 or 9, and that was key for us to go out and, do things together.
Yeah, that's great.
And so she loved that. And then Saline Valley to Hunter Mountain, I've done that numerous times. I knew we could take the Sprinters through there, or at least I was hoping. The road conditions were great that time of the year. So that's a much better way to get to the racetrack. A lot better views, much higher up. Not the washboards you get on the racetrack. You intersect there at Teakettle Junction to Racetrack Road, and then you hit Racetrack Road, and that's just washboard city. So that's like all the rental cars and people driving through there, and they just tear the place up. And then we We got ourselves a camping spot in there, which was probably, you know, another interesting story. Make sure you know the rules.
You got to know the rules, especially in national parks, because you'll get dinged pretty hard.
Yeah. And then road conditions, that was real important. I think we got lucky that whole time there. There were no real reports about bad roads. The Death Valley is really good about telling everybody about the closed hand roads.
Yeah.
So
good.
It was a great time.
All right, so it's your first trip to Death Valley. It just, you know, I know there's a million things, but what are some do's and don'ts, or what are some things that maybe first timers should just kind of keep in mind to just stay out of trouble?
Number one, probably not travel by yourself. That's key, because you know, Death Valley is pretty remote in a lot of areas, but worst case, you can drive out of there with another vehicle. If one vehicle breaks down or you have a malfunction, especially when you have a high-tech vehicle like you know, Mercedes Sprinter or a modern vehicle, you can have something go wrong and it won't start and you can't figure it out. Right?
Safety in numbers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a spare tire. Knowing the terrain, knowing the range of your vehicle. Range is the most important. Carrying extra fuel is great, but you can have all the fuel in the world, but it won't get you to the end. You know the range of your vehicle. Capable vehicle, spare tire.
That's a big one, right?
Yeah, it's huge. And then also being able to replace that tire in the field.
Yeah.
Doing it in your driveway is one thing, or on flat concrete. Now, depending on the time of year you could be doing it in the snow, you could be doing it on a hot day.
Yep.
Not on level ground, you can't move the vehicle. You got to have a good jack, the good tools, everything.
It's a bad time to realize you don't have your lug wrench.
Yeah. Real time. Or your key.
Your real key
for your lugs.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good stuff. That's just good general things that, I mean, really should use going anywhere that's remote.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of it's common sense.
So this trip was really cool for us because we had just visited Agile Offroad for the first time. We'd gotten this van right here outfitted with its rip kit, onboard air, auxiliary fuel tank, lots of bells and whistles. And it was so generous of you to go out there with us and take us for our first ride and do this tour through the park, which was really cool. You know, we had our van in a lot of places, but that was the one time when it really blew our mind of what our rip kit did for us, what our onboard air did.
Yeah.
Our fuel tank was great too, but you know, I think the biggest thing is when we first got onto the rougher dirt sections, and I just realized this rip kit aired down was a game changer in the Sprinter van.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we had just picked up our Winnebago Revel recently, and it was the first trip for it. So it wasn't as decked out as yours, but I'd put bigger tires on it. I had the spare. I'd had my onboard air. I believe I just had shocks on it.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and it was like its first trip out. I think we had it we bought it like 10 days before, and you had yours for quite a while, and you know yours was much better outfitted. We were able to air down, then we were air up when we were done, so we didn't need to drive to a gas station, things like that. Being self-reliant is really as important too. When you talk about going to places like Death Valley, you can pull off the dirt to pavement, and you're still like 30, 40 miles away from, you know, Panamint Springs or Trona or
it's a big place.
Wherever. It's a big place.
It could be very costly to get someone to bring you a spare tire.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to take this trip and use this as a template for our next field guide, which is going to be on Death Valley, a field guide for Death Valley. Yeah. And you know, we do these for Baja. We've got them for all the way going up to Alaska and back down. Okay. So we're getting quite a good collection of these, but we don't have one for Death Valley. So now is time. So we're going to use this trip as kind of a field guide. So if you want to come out and replicate this trip that we did with John, you're going to have all the details and then some. We're going to cover just general stuff about traveling in that area. We're going to talk about some vehicles maintenance and spare tire parts and things like that you should have. But then we're also going to get into the nuts and bolts of where we went on this tour.
Yeah, it was a leisurely pace.
Yeah.
So, you know, we had plenty of time for cooking and hanging out.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just like death marches every day.
Yeah. I thought it was a really relaxing, fun tour. We saw lots of stuff. We went to some beautiful places. Yeah. And we had tons of time to hang out. So
cool.
So this will be our next field guide, Death Valley, with the help of Agile Offroad John, who is legend and is going to really bring some nice flair to this field guide. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
I appreciate it.
Peter.
All right, we'll see you next time. I am super excited to share this Death Valley field guide with you all. It is going to be available on our Patreon. Patreon link is going to be right here and in the description down below. This is just one of the perks you get for being one of our patrons and helping us create these videos for not only you, but everyone to enjoy. Go check our Patreon out, see what you think. You're gonna find field guides not only to Death Valley, but also all the way up to Alaska, down to Baja, and more. We're gonna be creating new field guides as we travel. I wanna give a huge thanks to John at Agile Offroad for helping me put together this Death Valley field guide. Thank you so much for that, and we cannot wait to get out there and create the next one.